All right, welcome. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're not looking at an article or a study. Instead, we're stepping into a kind of thought experiment, a dialogue between voices that are trying to rationalize the absolute worst parts of existence. Think of this less as a story and more as an inquiry into the logic of cruelty itself, from the inside of a single person, to the systems we build, and finally all the way out to the cosmos.
This question right here, it really sets the stage. We're about to listen in on a conversation that isn't really happening between people. It's happening inside a consciousness that has figured out how to justify its own darkness. These are the excuses we make, the rationalizations we tell ourselves, just blown up and given a terrifying voice.
So here's the thing you've got to get your head around. These speakers, they aren't characters in a play. They're concepts, they're arguments, they are the voices of malice that's learned how to sound reasonable. We're going to follow their logic as it goes deeper and deeper, through three layers. First, the self and how it fractures. Then the collective and how it gives itself permission to be cruel. And finally, the cosmos and its cold, cold indifference. Our descent begins now.
So let's start that descent right inside the individual mind. I mean, how does this kind of thinking even begin? Well, it starts with a separation, a crack within the self. And the first voice we're going to hear from calls itself the torch goblin, a collector of souls, not from the dead, but from those who are just barely living.
This is the torch goblin's big question. What's the point of it? Why do we talk about our soul as if it's some separate thing from us? Why do we create this little gap inside our own identity? It seems like a fundamental human thing to do, doesn't it? This splitting of ourselves.
And here's the answer it comes up with. The key thing to see here is that dissociation in this view isn't some conscious choice we make. It's a reaction. It's a defense mechanism that's born out of pure fear and desperation. It's like an unconscious attempt to save a part of yourself by cutting it off from the pain that the rest of you is feeling. A survival tactic, sure, but one that comes with a really terrible price.
Okay, but what happens when that tactic, that disassociation, goes on for too long? Well, the self doesn't just fracture anymore. It kind of evaporates, and it leaves behind this hollow shell, a symbol of what used to be a life. And now we get to hear from a voice that is the embodiment of that exact state, the skeleton.
And this is the skeleton's haunting reality. It's suggesting that a life without connection, without any kind of meaning or resonance, is that really a life at all? Or is it more like a living death, an existence where you're just a symbol of a person, totally hollowed out on the inside? So what causes this hollowing? Well, the skeleton has a theory.
And this is where everything pivots. This is the big transition from the personal to the social. The skeleton blames its own emptiness on this force, this collective psychopathy. It's arguing that its sickness wasn't just individual, it was societal, a condition where the group, the crowd, gives you permission for acts of hate that you as an individual might never have considered. And this is the moment personal darkness finds real power in numbers.
Okay, so that brings us to the second layer of this whole thing. How does that collective permission to hate become an actual functional system? How do you build an entire apparatus of power that doesn't just tolerate cruelty, but actually rewards it?
To understand that, we have to listen to a voice that sees itself as a literal tool of this system. The orc warrior isn't acting alone. It's just a limb of the collective. It's an instrument that carries out the group's will without a single question and absolutely zero remorse.
This is the question that's put to the orc, and its perspective is just chillingly simple. To the orc, the whole concept of murder is just a social idea, one that doesn't even apply to it. And why not?
Because the system says it's okay. The logic is brutally simple. Violence is only a crime when the system says it's a crime. If the state, the collective, that large percentage, gives the thumbs up to the killing, then it's not murder anymore. It's policy. It's justice. The orc basically argues that hell isn't some other place. It's a condition that the powerful can create for the powerless, right here, right now, with total impunity.
But you see, a system like this has more than one weapon in its arsenal. Overt physical violence, that's one thing, but what about a more insidious, a more psychological attack? A kind of violence that's aimed not at the body, but at the very will to go on living.
This is the method of our next voice, the cannon lizard. It doesn't kill with a sword. It kills with despair. Its whole method is to find the seeds of hopelessness that are already inside a person and water them, nurture them. It turns their own soul into a personal black hole that just consumes them from the inside out.
So here, the dialogue takes a cosmic horror and makes it deeply personal. The canon lizard is basically mocking the idea that black holes are just these distant things out in space. It argues that the most powerful, the most terrifying voids are the ones that are custom-tailored just for you, the ones you carry inside, a gravitational point made of your own trauma and despair that you can never really escape.
And this is where we hit the bottom, the final, and the deepest layer of our descent. What is the ultimate justification for all of this cruelty? Well, the argument is that this isn't just a human failing or a societal one, but that it's a fundamental law of the universe itself.
This slide just lays out the escalation so brutally, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the orc warrior's logic, I can do this because my society says it's okay. And on the right, you have the logic of the void. I can do this because the universe is fundamentally empty and meaningless, so nothing I do matters anyway. The rationalization expands from the social to the infinite cosmic scale.
Now, before we meet that final voice, another entity, the robot Creep, chimes in with this deeply disturbing question. It asks us to imagine these vast artificial networks designed specifically to rationalize violence, and then it hits us with the punchline, isn't that what our own biological social networks already do? It just blurs the line, suggesting that maybe the systemic psychopathy is the operating system we're all already running.
And so we come to it, the final speaker, the voice that doesn't just use the void as an excuse, but claims to speak for it. This is the I-Guardian, and its philosophy is the end of the line for all this dark logic.
The I-Guardian's whole premise is that nothingness, it's not a passive, neutral state. It's an active, intimate force. The emptiness of the universe will find you, it argues. It's going to get inside your head and it will whisper to you until you break, because that's just its nature. And in its view, that's the ultimate justification for any and all cruelty.
So, after descending through all of these layers of rationalized darkness, we are left with no easy answers. This dialogue doesn't offer any hope or any kind of solution. It only leaves us with its final, chilling echo.
This is a thought from the narrator of the source material, a moment of just profound doubt after hearing all these voices. It's a simple, quiet admission of hopelessness.
And that is the I-Guardian's one-word reply, the final, stark confirmation from the void itself.
And so we end with the I-Guardian's final question to us. Is this it? Is the single defining characteristic of consciousness, of life itself, simply its ability to understand its own futility? The dialogue is over. But that question just hangs there in the silence.